Radiologic technologists perform complex medical procedures that rely on strong technical skills and specialty knowledge. As career-long learners, they seek educational opportunities from the consumer market, their employers, and educational institutions. Unfortunately, most employers and institutions don't offer educational content on mobile devices, and the consumer market doesn't offer good solutions. For my capstone project, I decided to build Raducate, a mobile app for radiologic technologists. The application offers technologists more freedom in accessing educational content, and it's designed based on feedback from subject matter experts in the industry. Application development requires a serious time investment. It's not easy. So the first thing I did was narrow the scope of the project. I established and achieved 4 key goals. First, I surveyed the target demographic, and I found out what they needed from a mobile app. Then, after taking their feedback into account, I created a prototype. Next, I tested that prototype on a focus group. And finally, our team coded the application based upon the prototype. Alright, so here's a quick overview of what I want to cover. First, I'm going to go over what we actually accomplished, and I'm going to show you the application as it stands. And then after that, I'm going to talk about all the work that went on behind the scenes and show you a little bit about the development process. Raducate was written for Android devices, which currently have the fastest growing user base. It was written using the programming language Java and features Material, a design language by Google. The application demo is currently available through the Google Play Store. One of the major features of the application is the positioning guide. The positioning guide opens with an anatomical model. The model is broken up into body segments. Each segment is identified with color blocking and a superimposed radiograph. Clicking on the body segment guides you to a list of projections. Once a user navigates to a specific projection, they can view detailed technical information, review anatomy, and see radiographic images superimposed over the model's body. In addition, technologists can record their preferred techniques, storing them to the device for later review. Alright, so this is kind of one of my favorite features. The drawer of the application slides out from the left-hand side of the screen, and it can also be accessed by tapping on a dashboard icon. The user can start typing the name of a projection, and as they type, the list will automatically filter the projections in real time. This makes searching for a specific projection simple. The content library has been built to host learning modules. It's organized into subsections by topic. Currently, icons and graphics have been created for this section, but no learning modules are live.
Alright, so I wanted to take you on a quick tour of the application. So we'll start from the home screen. This is Android here, running on a Nexus 6. So I can click on the Raducate app and it brings the app up. And what I'm going to do is just bypass this login screen. Just takes a second. So that brings us to the main dashboard. And you can see we have 2 options here, the positioning guide and the content library. I'm going to go ahead and click on the positioning guide. And it brings us to our anatomical model, and you can see I can click on her skull and spine, or I can choose to click on her upper extremity, or I can pick chest and thorax, or abdomen pelvis. But what I'm really interested in is I want to take a foot x-ray. So let's say I'm going to click on the lower extremity, and I'll tap on the foot one more time. And that brings me right to the projections menu. And let's say, I could toggle back and forth. Maybe I really wanted to see the upper extremity, or I really wanted to look at stuff in abdomen and pelvis, so I could toggle back and forth between those tabs. But what I'm really interested in is the AP foot. So I'm going to click on AP foot, and that brings up the main kind of projection view. And we see the image of the body part superimposed with the radiograph, and I can actually tap on that, and that brings kind of a ghost image back and forth so people can see how the anatomy looks just as anatomy, and also see it with x-ray vision. So it's kind of cool. Another feature that we've got is when you go to the details tab, you'll notice that there are tabs on the bottom for the projection. I can actually type in my preferred technique for this projection, and it'll actually save it to the phone. So even if I close this program and I bring it back up, I've still always got this right in my pocket. So I'm just going to head back here just by hitting the back button. And, oops, went too far. All right, and the next thing I want to show you is the drawer, which is actually really cool. We talked about that a little bit. The drawer is neat because it lets you search. So right now, the only data that's in here is for foot. So let's say I just wanted to see all the oblique projections. I know I was looking for some sort of oblique projection. So you can see as I type, you can see it starts to filter down. And this kind of saves people a lot of time because you suddenly don't have to, toggle back and forth. And if you just erase, it gets you back to kind of the scrollable menu of all of them. And the nice thing about this is, again, you don't have to search. It's searching in real time. It's providing you that information in real time. Close the keyboard. So, you've also got some pretty basic stuff, help, feedback, settings. You can, log on, create a password, stuff like that. And then the content library is kind of just a coming soon page. There is scaffolding in the background for that, but it was beyond the scope of a 3-month project.
So next I'd like to talk a little bit about the development process. Some people think application development is simple, but it's actually really complicated and requires multiple tools. I started with the market research survey, which was created using a program called Typeform. Then I built a wireframe using Balsamiq. All of the graphics were designed with Adobe Photoshop and photographed using a Canon EOS Rebel T6 digital SLR camera. The prototype was created and hosted by InVision, and lastly, the application itself was coded in Android Studio. The first step in the application creation process involves creating a wireframe. A wireframe should always be simple, like a sketch, which encourages developers to reiterate upon the design. I created a lot of different wireframes, drafting it over and over, and finally found one that I was really happy with. Once that final wireframe was selected, graphic assets were created based on the specifications of the wireframe. And from there, the graphic assets were converted into a mock-up, which showed the final layout for the application. All of the mock-up images were ultimately uploaded into a prototyping tool called InVision, which allowed me to create hotspots on the mock-up images. You can see them there in blue. Hotspots are basically links. So essentially, this meant that we could test the application on actual phones. Prototyping is pretty important because without it, you don't know if your application makes sense or if users find it intuitive to use or even if it works. After settling on a final prototype, I had to call for reinforcements. Emmanuel Zephyr, a senior developer for a tech firm, offered to help code the prototype into a viable application. Development was hard because while phones often have high-quality screens, they don't always have the graphics processing power we typically find in computers. So we had to change the DPI of the images multiple times to ensure that they wouldn't crash certain phones. Ultimately, we got the application working and tested it on a Nexus 6 and Samsung Galaxy S4. And you can actually go to www.raducate.com and click on the Google Play icon to test the application on your own phone. I tested the application on a focus group of 23 technologists, and most of the feedback was positive. Overall, people were happy with the graphics and arrangement of content. There were a couple of things that stood out to technologists. One was that the application provided asynchronous content. That means that it's available at any time, and that skills can be learned right when they're needed. The second thing techs appreciated was that the content was ubiquitous and portable. It was available anywhere. They also liked that the content was provided on their terms. Raducate lets people consume information in small doses. You don't always want to sit and do a 4-hour learning module. Plus, the application runs on devices that techs already own and use without additional hardware investments. There's plenty of work to be done, and Raducate has been designed with future features in mind. Of course, the priority is to finish existing sections, but there's plenty of room for growth. And some of our future goals have actually been built into Raducate's design. We could add new filters, allowing technologists to sort projections according to the patient's level of injury, like you see here. We could create a system to allow large organizations to upload institution-specific protocols. We could even expand all of our curriculum, creating content for other modalities, like CT. We could also host vendor-sponsored content. There's also the potential that once the system is complete, it might be possible to offer continuing education credits. So there's a ton of room for potential growth. Raducate could revolutionize how radiologic technologists interact with educational content. It's designed with the user in mind, offers on-the-go content, and supports devices that Android users are already familiar with. In our focus group, Raducate received positive reviews. Technologists found the application appealing, easy to navigate, and simple to use. They also suggested some changes, and this feedback showed me just how important it is to make strategic decisions based on industry input. Overall, Raducate's development is just beginning. There's a lot to do, but technologists are excited. In fact, during the demo, the most common question was, when can we download it? Thanks for listening.